Perfect. All right.
So guys,
Up and running.
just waiting.
So we'll go ahead and get started, if you don't mind. Hopefully, it sounds like they don't know how to work that thing back there. That's a tough one. We'll go ahead and get started. So this seminar is ways of making your home a target. This one here is going to be a little bit shorter. We're going to go through.
I'm not supposed to get my part above 100.
We're going to go through. Hey guys, if you're going to have a conversation, take it outside. Thank you. So we're going to go through an actual questionnaire that was filled out. It's kind of cool. So we'll go through this. We'll talk about it. But first things first, introduction. So who am I? So I'm Toby. What makes me qualified to teach a seminar? Quite frankly, nothing other than I have a little bit of information. I've got a little bit of experience, and I want to be able to share that information and experience. So that's really all that it is. I'm not the smartest person in the room by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have learnings in here. I've taken classes, I've researched, I've obviously implemented a lot of this myself, so I'm going to go through and kind of try to teach you what I've learned just by doing it. We'll talk about whiteboard, which we always do a whiteboard review. We'll go through that. We'll talk about strengths and weaknesses, as well as understanding the criminal mindset, which is extremely important. And then we'll talk about what steps you can take, first steps, etc. No cost, low cost, and extremely expensive. So we'll go through all of those. Volume down on that hand. So if you do have a question, I know we've got the live stream going right now. If you're watching after the fact, sorry, but we've got somebody monitoring the questions in the live stream as well. So if you have a question, ask the question. We'll go ahead and address the same thing for everyone here in the room. Ask your question. So let's go over the whiteboard right here real quick. First things first, let's talk about assets. So we've done this before. This was part of the first seminar that we did. We talked about a lot of assets. And as we talk about home security, a lot of this is applicable. I mean, fire suppression alarm systems, community and posse, we're going to touch on that here in a bit as well. Shelter, obviously, that's the whole point of this session here, to talk about that. Light, sanitizer, I don't see how that one really is going to be applicable to what we're talking about today, but that's absolutely part of it. Assets, however, can also be liabilities. So as we talk about firearms and weapons or dogs or stuff like that, keep in mind that all that stuff can also be a liability if you don't treat it properly, if you don't treat it right, if you don't give it the respect that it deserves. For instance, if you treat a dog poorly, that dog is more likely to turn on you when you don't want it. But the biggest one here is capitalized and underlined, and that's mindset. Mindset is going to be key to everything, and that absolutely can be a liability, and arguably the biggest liability that you might have. If you don't have the knowledge or the wherewithal to get through a situation, is going to be extremely tough. So again, we talked about strengths and weaknesses, assets and liabilities. Let's talk specifically about the home, the domicile, right? So specifically, we'll start with neighborhood. Neighborhood, size and accessibility. If you've got a nice big neighborhood, that can be really good because you've got a lot of people to support you through a time of crisis. However, a big neighborhood can also be a bad thing because that's a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of people coming around, potentially knocking on your door during a time of crisis. Not something you want. Accessibility. If there's only one road in and one road out, and something happens to that means of ingress or egress, and then something else happens inside that community, that could be very bad. That could be a very bad situation, quite frankly. Conversely, if you've got a small neighborhood, it could be good, it could be bad. Same thing with accessibility. A lot of roads in likely means a lot more traffic in. Network, family, friends, neighbors. What does that network look like? Are you a person in your neighborhood that everybody loves, or that everybody hates, or that nobody knows, or that is always out walking around? Who are you? And conversely, who are your neighbors? What are those neighbors to you? Are they good? Are they bad? Etc. Friends and family. We love friends and we love family, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't have them, right? Friends specifically. But do they have the right mindset? Are they prepared? Do they understand how they can be an asset or a liability? Physical assets. It's really good to have good things, but if you don't have things, maybe you've got the wrong things, maybe those things can be used against you. They can also be strengths and weaknesses. Virtual assets, whether that be knowledge or something that isn't physical, not tangible, you can't put your finger on it. Virtual assets can be both strengths and weaknesses. Before we dive into the questionnaire, let's talk about some statistics. These are FBI published statistics. I'm not making them up. They're out there. This is from, I believe, 2017. A home break-in occurs every 13 seconds. That's no joke. So the time I've been talking, there's probably been a dozen homes burglarized or more. 72% of those occur when the home is unoccupied, meaning I know I'm not going to face anybody, any kind of opposition, so I'm going to go when they're not there. And the front door is used 34% of the time. That is kind of an incredible stat. So 1 out of every 3 break-ins, they come right through the front door. They're not doing the sneaky little stuff around back, finding a window. 34% of the time, they're coming in through your front door. Between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., going back to when it's unoccupied, they're coming to your house when you're not there. When you're at work, you're doing something, that's when they come. Lasts about 10 minutes. Yep.
Someone asked if we could zoom in the camera a little bit, please.
Zoom in the camera. Well, let's see if we can do that. I'm not sure if we can, but we will try.
Oh, so we're able to, you guys can do this virtually today, huh?
So forgive me, I am going to attempt this here.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh.
Is this on the website? Maybe that's where you're looking at it from? Yeah. What's it under?
Okay.
Okay, I think that's good. I apologize for all the back and forth. That's the best I can do from a Zoom standpoint. Okay, so continuing on, most occur between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. and last about 10 minutes. So if you think about the average response time for police, probably longer than 10 minutes, which means they're in and out before the cops ever get there. So all they're doing is taking reports and trying to get them after the fact. July and August are the highest months. Why do you think that is?
Vacation.
Vacation, exactly. People are gone. People know people are gone, and so they go during those times. And the average loss is about $2,400. So if you think the term smash and grab, they come in, they take jewelry, television, electronics, stuff like that, stuff they can easily get, and then they're out the door. 10 minutes, in and out, get what they get out. It's good to understand these statistics because it'll help us better understand the other part, which is the questionnaire that we're about to roll through.
And
So,
we-
yes.
The stat I've seen too with that at an FBI presentation was they go to the master bedroom first.
Right, so we'll get into
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah, so we've got the questionnaire coming. We're going to get into that. So in 2017, 86 inmates were given a questionnaire of 17 questions where they were able to answer anonymously. For those of you watching on the live stream or after the fact, it's actually linked in the description right below. You can click that link, it takes you right to this survey. You can read, I'm going to give a quick synopsis of it for each one of those questions, but you can go read the whole thing. It gives us an understanding, or at least a little bit of insight as to how these people think. So how do you fight something? How do you combat something? First thing you need to do is you need to understand, what are they thinking like? Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? How can I better protect myself? Which is ultimately the goal. We don't want to be burglarized. We don't want to be seen as a target, so that's what this is for. So, first question. How do you typically break into a home or apartment? And very first one, unlocked door or window. The second most common answer was kicking open the front door. And the quote that was there was basically, I'd rather make a loud bang than a crash. A loud bang, like a front door being kicked in, because of the frequency, it's less noticeable. Somebody could be dropping something that makes a loud bang. You start breaking glass, that typically gets more attention. Plus, you run the risk of getting cut. So, again, they're cowards and they don't want to be hurt either. They're human beings at the end of the day. Next, once inside, what's the first thing that you look to steal as a criminal? Jewelry, electronics, cash, and credit cards. Stuff that they can get in, get out, and pawn quickly. Additionally, collectibles and guns. And this, one of the quotes says, an NRA sticker on a car bumper equals lots of guns to steal. So we're going to get into, at the end of this questionnaire, we're going to talk about ways that you can better protect yourself. No cost, low cost, and then expensive. So we'll get into all that. But the NRA sticker on a car bumper equals lots of guns to steal. Question in the chat? No? Okay, good. Next one, where did you look for hidden valuables? Well, again, start in the master bedroom. Go back exactly what you said. Go to the master bedroom, because where do we think is the most safe place in the house? Well, it's usually the master bedroom. That's where I lay my head at night. That's got to be the safest place. Turns out, that's the first place they look. You know why? Because they're human beings as well, and they sleep in their master bedroom, and they have those same feelings. So this includes the secret hiding places. It says from the stove and freezer to the fish tank, the toilet tank, bookshelves, and in boxes of cereal. If you can think of a place that to hide something, nobody will ever look there. That's exactly what these people do for a living. Of course they're going to look there. So nothing is near as secure as you think it is, or near as safe as you think it is. What time of the day did you prefer? So again, going back to that FBI statistic, early morning or afternoon, between 12:30 and 2 p.m. Anyone that was home for lunch should be gone by then, and most of the kids will still be in school. So between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. was the FBI statistic. Here, the quote was between 12:30 and 2:30. After lunch, but before you come home from work or school. Did home protection, such as security signs or anything else, deter you? Some stated it didn't alter their plans. So you think, hey, well, I've got the security, this ADT sign right in my front yard, and that means all the criminals know not to come here. Didn't alter their plans at all. Others stated it actually kind of helped their plans because they know how to disarm or avoid those measures. So if you think you have the latest high-tech whiz-bang security system, nobody's ever going to know, they usually test those security systems. Criminals test those security. They pay them to do that. They're called gray hats. They come in, they test the security system, especially if it's a cyber one. They test it, they try to defeat it, and then they rebuild it off of that. So this one says, hey, if you put an ADT sign, I know how to defeat an ADT system. Your home just became a target. Did pets in the home, like a dog, make you think twice? Most said large breeds did deter. So your little ankle biter chihuahua that just is annoying as heck, not really doing that big a deal. Almost all said small breeds didn't bother them. Right? So the chihuahuas, the dachshunds, all those cute dogs, they're just that. They're cute. Right? They might bite, but at the end of the day, they're not going to be protectors and deterrents. Some people think any dog, not just any dog. It's got to be a dog of a good size, a large breed dog. Do you typically knock on the front door before breaking into a home? Every single response said yes. Why do you think that is?
Because if somebody's there, they're going to come to the door.
Yeah, exactly. If somebody's there, hey, knock, knock, knock. Hey, Miss Sally, I'm here to, whatever. Or nobody answers the door. Hey, now I know nobody's home. Nobody came to the door. Nobody answered. If someone answered the door, what would you say or do? Lost, wrong house, looking for a dog or friend, responding to a post on Craigslist or Facebook, that's a good one, or fake solicitation. One of the people actually said that they would put on one of those high reflective vests and walk around with a clipboard. Just random stuff. So, understand this. If you look the part, most people think you are the part. So if you walk around a neighborhood with a high-vis vest and a clipboard, it doesn't have to say anything on that high-vis vest. People assume you're there to do some sort of work and that you belong there.
So nothing hiding in plain sight?
Hiding in plain sight, exactly. Exactly. If the home alarm system went off, so now we're getting into the home. If the home alarm system went off, what would you do? Most said they would leave immediately, right? One person said, hey, I'd try to turn it off, otherwise get the hell out of there. And why is that? Because if there's no home alarm system, you're relying on a witness to call police and get them out there, right? If there is a home alarm system and it's active and it's monitored, the police have been called. If there was a security camera visible, would it keep you from breaking in? Most said yes. Most said, hey, if there's a camera, I'm not gonna risk it. I'm just gonna go on my way and move on to the next house. Some stated that the presence of cameras likely meant that there were valuables inside. So what does that mean? Hey, if this person's gone through all the trouble to get a security system and to put up cameras to do all this work, must mean there's something pretty important in there, and I kind of want to get in to find out. It's that curiosity thing, right? So security cameras don't, again, just like that sign in the front yard, don't immediately assume that's a master deterrent. Nobody's ever going to want to come in my house. In some cases, it is a target.
Couldn't it also, if you have security cameras, it also means you have the money to have security cameras?
Could mean, exactly. You've got the money for a baller security system, it means you've got the money for other nice things, or money in general. Did lights on in the home make you think twice? How many of us have left to go on vacation somewhere, put a light on a timer, or even just left a light on? I know I have. Yeah, absolutely. Some said yes, deterrent. But again, these people, first of all, I guess they're not that good because they didn't get caught, right? It's an inmate questionnaire, but at the end of the day, that's what they did. So that means they kind of understand where we're coming from with leaving the light on. I would drive through upper class neighborhoods looking for many things like a porch light on and all windows on with the blinds closed. And I would argue in the daytime. If it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, bright full sun, you've got your outside lights on, it probably means they've gone on all day, which probably means you haven't been home all day to turn them on. If you heard a TV or radio on inside the house, would you still break in? Nearly all stated they would not. Absolutely not was one of the comments that came through. So what does that say? Hey, if you've got a pet, you leave the radio on for a dog or something during the day, it's actually potentially keeping your house safer. But if you leave it on a whisper, nobody's going to hear that on the outside. Conversely, if you crank it all the way to 11, that's probably going to draw more attention than you want. So find that happy medium if that's where you choose to go. Would it make a difference if there was a vehicle in the driveway? Almost every single person said they'd think twice. One of them said most of the time it's a sure sign of someone being home. Absolutely. If you've got a garage, right? I've got a 2-car garage at the home. I always leave a car in the driveway. That's not because of this. That just, I didn't have enough room in the garage. Is really what it boiled down to. But it turns out that's a good thing. So next time somebody bugs us, hey, you gotta clean the garage. Nope, I'm keeping us safe by leaving my car in the driveway. You absolutely have permission to use this from now on. You can even link to the video. What is your ideal target for a burglar? Most stated they did not want to be seen, right? So they looked for homes that helped hide their presence. Going back to the very beginning, when we talked about neighborhood size, big neighborhoods can be beneficial. Where you think a smaller neighborhood, I'm not going to have as many people. That's true. But it might help hide somebody's nefarious activity, right? So a home away from other homes, blind spots, older windows and frames. So they even go into this detail. They look at your windows and frames. Are they older? Cheap wooden doors, large trees, bushes, or shrubs. Basically anything that allows them to hide their presence there. Do you ever do surveillance on your target? Some stated yes, others stated no. So basically this means some, it just depends on who they are and what they do and how much they're into this. Some will surveil a target, case a house, figure out the patterns, break in. Others are just driving down the street, see something, hey, let's target that one, let's go. If you did surveillance, what were you trying to figure out? Obviously, exactly what we just talked about. What is the best time to come here? Not just from this home standpoint, but from the neighbors. Right? Does this person walk their dog every day around and they're always going by at 133? You know, the neighbor always walks their dog at 133. Who lives in the home, what their weekday schedules are, what they drive, is there a dog, is there a hidden key? How many of you have a hidden key somewhere around your house? Meant to be rhetorical, I don't expect hands, I don't want you to give that information up, but a lot of folks used to do this. Many still do. Well, guess what? That underneath the flower pot by the front door or under the mat or on the top of the door frame, I just gave away all your hiding spots, by the way, but that doesn't work. Hasn't worked in a long time. Oh, and by the way, if somebody has a key, going back to what we talked about with the high-vis vest, kind of looks like they're meant to be there. So even if somebody drives by and sees an open the front door with a key, oh, they must be watching the house. Now they're not calling the cops. Even though they saw them, they're not calling the cops. What is the one thing homeowners can do to avoid being burglarized? There isn't really one thing. It's a multitude of things, and we're going to get into that. Most said good lighting with trimmed bushes and trees. Almost all mentioned neighborhoods with neighbors, you know, interactive neighbors. So as we go back and we talk about, you know, some of our assets on here, part of this was community, posse, right? Like we talked about in the first seminar, preparedness is not an individual thing. It can be, but it's not meant to be. Preparedness is a community thing. Look out for you, but if you can help your neighbor, that's what this country was founded upon, right? Is helping others, especially in times of need. So put bars in your windows and doors, get an alarm, keep an extra car in the driveway, or just do what I said, messy garage, car in the driveway. Lights and TV or radio on, and alert police to anything serious. So in today's day and age, unfortunately, there's this mindset of, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to call the police. Call them. That's exactly what they're there for. Even if you see that person in a high-vis vest and the clipboard walking around the neighborhood, call, because what does that do? That means the police are going to make contact with that person, and they're going to check ID. And guess what? If they have an outstanding warrant, now that criminal's off the street in your neighborhood. If they are who they say they are and they're supposed to be there, no harm, no foul, but now that person knows, damn, this neighborhood, okay. So if they've got a friend, maybe they're legit, but they're casing the place for their friend. Hey man, don't go to this neighborhood. These neighbors, they actually called the cops on me. All I was doing was walking around doing my job. So those are things you can do. We blew through those 17 questions pretty quick. What questions do you have, or comments do you have? Have you been a victim of a burglary, of a home break-in or anything like that? What do you know? What have you seen? Friends, neighbors, anything? Comments?
What's interesting is that I have a truck. We have a SUV, and my wife has a little sports car. We keep the SUV and the sports car in the garage, and I keep my truck out in the driveway. When we leave, I actually put my truck into the garage, and my thought is, I don't want someone breaking into my truck.
Right.
So it's almost like, now I'm thinking, well, I mean, would I rather than break in my truck or my house?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to, listen, at the end of the day, you don't want them to break into anything.
Right.
Right, there's a sense of violation there. Is it ever really yours after that? That's a dilemma. I don't know. I think that, man, personally, I think I'd probably let them have the car.
That's what I was
It's a
thinking.
whole lot less expensive and a whole lot easier to replace,
Mhm.
especially from a timing standpoint. If you're without a car, you're without a car for maybe a couple days, maybe a
Right.
week, a month at the longest if the insurance company takes a long time. Well, a house, oh boy, now you gotta move all your stuff, and that could be a nightmare. I think I'd rather let them have a car at that
I
point.
think I will start moving the truck out of the driveway.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about some other things that you might wanna take into consideration when you do that too. Other comments? Stone group today. All right, let's move on. So first steps, how can you either start or continue on your journey specifically as it relates to making your home less of a target for criminals? Well, let's start with some no-cost habit changes. First thing, observe your surroundings. Just like we talked about with that idiot in the high-vis vest, just let them know, if nothing else, I see you. I see you walking around with your clipboard. I know what you're doing, whether it's legit or illegitimate. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna call the cops. Power of observation, be the best witness you can be, right? Next, don't advertise. Don't advertise anything. Don't advertise your valuables, right? And certainly don't advertise your security cameras. So going back to the question about the security cameras, did it deter you from breaking in? And some folks said, well, if they've got a security camera, it means they've got valuables. Well, if you can put that security camera in a place that isn't necessarily visible to somebody who's not looking for it, right? So the one place that most people look is right over the garage, right? You've got a garage, right over the garage, or the front door, right over the front door. But very few times do people actually look up. So if you look at that security camera up on the second floor and look down, very few times do they look up. It's just human nature. When was the last time you looked up and noticed the ceiling tiles? Very few times. The other thing too is like a Ring doorbell camera. A lot of folks have those. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, criminals are becoming more in tune with what those are, but that's not a bad thing. That's probably a good thing, because you don't notice that until you're right up on the house. And by then, you've already been on camera for the last 50 feet. But don't advertise your valuables either. So don't leave your garage door open. Don't just leave it open throughout the day. There we go, keep the garage door closed. Keep that thing closed, because you don't want to advertise what you have. So you've talked about 2 cars in the garage, you've probably got other stuff in there too, that you don't necessarily want people to see. Always keep your doors and windows locked. So, again, we talked about burglaries, 34% front door. I would be very curious to know, of that 34%, how many of the times did they just walk up and turn the knob and walk in? I grew up in a neighborhood, in a very remote area. I don't know that we ever locked our doors. But now, always. Even when we're home and we're inside the house, those doors are locked. Right? You've got them, use them. They don't work if you don't use them. Keep your blinds and curtains partially or fully closed. Obviously, this also helps with your energy bills. You keep enough light out, it cuts down on that greenhouse effect, and keeps your energy bill lower. I say partially closed, and here's what I mean by that. If you angle your blinds the right way, you can angle it so that you can still see out from the outside, but you can't see it. Because it's light to dark, but you can see dark to light. So it's like going into a tunnel. You can't necessarily see what's in that tunnel, but once you're in the tunnel and you're coming out the other side, you typically can. So blinds are a good one. Keep those closed, partially or fully. Trim your foliage. Trees, bushes, they look great. They also provide amazing cover for people with bad intent. So if you've got bushes out in front of the house, the typical recommended height is about 3 feet. Now, if somebody wants to get on their belly and crawl, yeah, of course, they're still going to be out of view. But if they're that committed, and they're crawling across the front yard, if you've got good neighbors, you've got a good community, somebody calling the cops. If nothing else, they're calling somebody to do a welfare check on that person who's laying in your front yard crawling on their belly across. Maybe they need some sort of mental help or something. Set the alarm that you have. So many people have their alarm. They pay for it every month, just like you pay for cable, internet, cell phone. You pay for this stuff, but you never use it. Well, if you don't set it, kind of like locking your doors. If you've got locks, you've got the best lock in the world. But if it's not locked, it doesn't work. If you've got the best security system in the world, but you never set it, it's never going to alert the authorities that something's happening. Develop a community network. Get to know your neighbors. We talked about this the last time and again in the first session. Know who your neighbors are. Know how they can help. Know how you can help them. Again, it goes back to being a community thing. And stop posting on social media personal information, mother's maiden name, birthday, things like that. Checking into places. Oh my God, and that was a thing, I guess it was probably 10 years ago now. You would check in somewhere. Hey, I'm at such and such a bar. I know you're not home, okay. Kicking in the front door. Vacations, whether you're planned vacations. Hey, we just secured our place at Disney in January of 21. That's where I'm going to be in January of 21. Your house. And I'm going to set a calendar reminder to make sure I'm there. Or if you're currently on vacation, hey, check us out. We're down at Myrtle Beach. We're hanging out. Well, I know you're not home then. Post those pictures. If you want to share that, just post them once you get home. Nobody needs to know that you're there at the moment, right? You don't have to be like, I'm here. It only counts if I'm here when I post it, right? I have to post it now. Say, post it next week. Photos of security measures and valuables, right? So we talked about that before. Don't advertise. Don't be like, hey, check out this awesome, cool new gun safe that I just bought. Click, here's it full. And oh, by the way, what you can see in the background is what room it's in, how it's bolted down, all the stuff that's in it. Oh, we've got a case of ammo next to it. That's cool. And security measures. Hey, we just got a brand new security system. And hey, yeah, well, this is the noise it makes when you come in and you're doing your little live stream or whatever, and you punch in your security code. All I need is your address, which I could probably get from your check-in. And then guess what? Now, get the security code to your house. I can kick your front door open and shut the alarm off. Nobody ever know. Those are literally no-cost habit changes. Nothing here costs any money. Nothing. Just don't be stupid. Understand how the actions that you take or don't take can make your home a target or make you a target. So now let's get into some money, right? Simple and inexpensive. If you don't have blinds and curtains, get blinds and curtains. It can completely change a room, the feel of a room, the character of a house. It can completely be changed by curtains. So it's not necessarily a security measure. It absolutely can be, but it can also be kind of cool. Hey, I changed the curtains out every time, with every season. So I've got a set of curtains for the spring, one for the summer, fall, winter, etc. So it can make it fun. Upgrade your locking mechanisms on your doors. It says here practical demonstration. What I would say is go back and watch the last live stream where I actually picked what used to be my front door deadbolt. I'm not a lock picker by trade or anything, but if I can pick what used to be my front door deadbolt, odds are it's going to be no challenge for anybody else. So upgrade your locking mechanisms on your doors. And I said during that stream as well, during that seminar, pick something that isn't a traditional style. So there's a pin and tumbler design. Don't choose a pin and tumbler design lock. Choose something else. Doesn't matter what it is, but choose something else. Because most people are going to be most familiar with a pin and tumbler locking. If you throw something else at them, it might fluster them enough that they just move on to the next house. They're going to go find something that they're more comfortable with. Install exterior lighting. This is the AR versus AK thing. Do you get flood lighting or do you get motion lighting? My answer, same as the AR AK debate, yes. Get them both, and here's what I mean by that. Flood is good because flood is always on, which means at a moment's glance, you can see what's going on outside. Get that snapshot. Motion lighting is good because it gives the appearance that somebody flipped a switch. Or even if they know it's a motion light, once it comes on, well, it doesn't matter, they just stop. It's bought time. Even if it's 2 or 3 seconds, it's bought time. Install entry sensors, right? So you can go to any big box store. It doesn't have to be a security system. But if it is, great. But you can buy the little things every time you open the door, they make this horrible, ear-piercing little ding. It's terrible. But you know it. You know when that door's open. So even if somebody comes and kicks open that door and they hear that chime, it might trick them into thinking it's open. If you don't have the means to go full-blown alarm, just go with the entry sensor. You put them on doors, windows, really anything. Install or advertise a faux security system. So like we said before, that sign in the yard, hey, sometimes it is a deterrent. Sometimes it's a target. You need to make that decision for yourself. But what you can do, let's say you do have an ADT system, put a CPI security sign in your yard. Because then they come up, oh, it's CPI, I don't have to defeat that. They kick open the door, and it's not CPI. Now it's ADT. They weren't prepared for that. Again, it buys you time. What does that time do? If your alarm triggers in 5 seconds or 15 seconds, that might be all you need. It might have flummoxed them enough to give the time for that monitored system to alert the authorities. So install or advertise a faux security system. Put some lights on timers. I think the days of floor lamps have probably passed. We're on to other things. We're on to LED strips or whatever. But putting stuff on timers is never really a bad idea. I would strongly recommend not your exterior lighting, but some interior lighting wouldn't be a bad idea if it's not going to hinder your sleep, especially when you travel. Fire extinguishers. Procure fire extinguishers, right? Comes back to here, assets, fire suppression. Get them, make sure they're not expired, make sure they're charged, do what you need to do. Same thing with smoke detectors, right? Make sure those things are in good working order and the batteries are changed out when they need to be.
How long are those usually good for, fire extinguishers?
Fire extinguishers vary, but you're looking 5, 7 to 10, depending on what you buy, who it's from, all that kind of stuff. I would also recommend, there are so many different types of fire extinguishers. ABC is the most common and what's recommended for household use because it will do chemical, it will do just a standard fire, but ones that I like, so I carry one in my vehicle, that I actually use a marine one. So I use a marine fire extinguisher in the car because the thought is if I come upon something that's pouring rain and water isn't helping the situation, I can help it with that. So something that's designed for a boat, I figure probably pretty good for a car.
And that's a foam?
It's not a foam, it's more of a powder. Yeah, so that's the other thing too, as they start to expire, like this is the second one I've had in there, I had to replace it. I took the other one out and hit it, what does it do? And it's like this, it almost looks like baking soda with an aerosol behind it, kind of. That's really what it looked like to me. It smelled something fierce though. It was not baking soda. Questions in the chat? Good. All right, so now we'll get into some elaborate pricey situations here. So these are gonna, before you could kind of get away with some of this stuff, right? Hey, blinds and curtains. Hey, honey, we're gonna make the house look pretty good. Let's go to Hobby Lobby and let's just go nuts with the fabric. You can get away with that. These, probably not so much. Install a monitored security system. Just like we saw before, they kick open the front door. Almost every single one of them said that was the big deterrent. One person said, hey, I'm gonna try to turn it off, but otherwise I'm getting the hell out of there. I'll give it like 10 seconds and I'm getting the hell out of there. Get a monitored security system. Monitor being the key word there, right? Because you can have a security system in the house that gives a nice 105 decibel god-awful noise, and that's probably a pretty good deterrent, but then what? Nobody's coming. You better hope your neighbors hear it, if you have neighbors, if they're close enough to hear it. Yeah.
Someone added for the simple and inexpensive.
Yep.
They also suggest replacing the short screws in the door striker with 3.5 to 4 inch screws.
Fantastic. Yes, that's that's not even something I had planned on talking about was fortifying means of entry, but absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, the strike plate is what your deadbolt goes into, and what those are secured with typically is a screw about that long, which basically means it holds the door shut from a strong wind. What their comment was replace it with much longer screws. So you're talking like a 3.5 inch screw, and what that does is it goes through not just the door frame, but all the way into the stud that the door frame is attached to on the house, which just gives you, honestly, it's not a cure-all. It's not gonna stop everything. It'll give you an extra 3 or 4 kicks before you're through that door, but that door is still gonna be defeated at some point. But the thought is, if I can kick the door open with one kick, you ask any law enforcement person that's been part of a door kicking crew, or military that's been part of a door kicking crew, one good kick, you're in. Any home. But if you get those screws, now it's 3, 4, maybe 5 kicks before you're in. So what does that do? It gives you time. Everything we're talking about here gives you time to react, assuming you're home.
Wouldn't neighbors also more likely react to several bangs?
Several bangs instead of one
Instead of
loud
just
one.
one?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I know I do. If I hear something that sounds like somebody hammering a nail, look out the window. Who the heck is hammering a nail?
Someone did make a comment that says, but be careful not to tighten them down too much or it will change the way the door closes, creating a gap between the door and the door frame.
Yes, that can happen. Absolutely can happen. Yep. So the other thing too is on that note, front door, you've got your deadbolt, you've got your handle. On your door latch, let's call it, where the, just a handle shuts, it's usually, and I'll do it from like a side profile. You've got this piece and it's kind of got this rotated part, and it moves like this. So when the door shuts, it's angled so that the door can shut. Otherwise, if it were square, it would just hit and never shut. The door shuts. Well, behind that is a pin that moves independently. When your door is shut, that pin should be back. It should not fall into that groove. If it falls into that groove, you can use the credit card trick, open the door. If that pin is back, what that does is it prevents that thing from moving without the turning of the handle. So another very good point there. All right, so we talked about monitored security system. Video surveillance equipment. Again, you need to make the decision, is it right? The recommendation is it only helps. Even if it makes you a target, guess what? You're on camera now. So if you do get in and you do get $2,400 worth of stuff, that's what homeowners insurance is for. Well, now I've got your car, make and model and color. I've got your license plate. I've got you put your little COVID face mask on, cool. Guess what? I can still tell your height, build, rough age, skin color, all that stuff is still on camera. So video surveillance can be good. Glass appliques. These are both visual and physical protection. I don't mean Walmart tint. What I mean is, there's a company out there, and I think it's 3M. Pretty sure it's 3M. I'll link it in the video description after. It's actually, and there's a video on this, Haley Strategic does a really good job during his presentations when he talks to corporate entities with nice, beautiful glass facades about putting these films, these appliques on with a regular glass, even if it's not tempered glass. Let's assume it's pane glass, right? It falls away. Couple hits, you're through. I mean, couple hits, you're through that glass. This applique, minutes before you're through this thing. It's expensive, but it is absolutely worth its weight in gold. So I would strongly encourage you to check that stuff out, and again, see if it's right for you. If you've got a big, let's say a big sliding glass door somewhere, yeah, maybe that's the only thing you put this on. Maybe. Because it is expensive, but how else are you gonna secure a big sliding glass door? Something to think about. Establish or install physical barriers. Physical barrier could be a fence. Fences are not cheap. Especially if you want one that's gonna look good for a long period of time, like a vinyl fence or something, those aren't cheap. But guess what, prickly bushes are basically free. Go to the woods where all the raspberry bushes are growing, dig up a couple, put them around your windows, put them underneath your windows. Nothing deters somebody quite like getting a pricker bush in a place that you don't want a pricker bush. Yes?
Someone made the comment, you probably want to check with your HOA covenants before tinting your windows though.
So these appliques do come in a tint, but they also come in clear. So nobody knows they're there. I would encourage the clear because again, you don't want to advertise your security measures. So if I see a tint on a window, I know there's something on that window. But if I can see through it like nothing's there, that is only going to buy me as the homeowner more time. But that is absolutely true. If you're gonna do any kind of tinting or anything like that, you live in an HOA, you definitely gotta check those. Physical barriers are good, but again, if you go the bushes or trees route, keep them trimmed. Keep them trimmed. So that really brings us to the end of the seminar. I told you it was gonna be a quick one today. I knew we'd be able to fly through those questions. We do, of course, have two others out there right now. First Steps to Preparedness and 8 skills you didn't know you needed. How I know you're here for the last one.
Right.
It was a long one. We talked a lot about ham radio, but I knew that was going to be the case. So the first 7 skills flow through pretty quick, but the ham radio we kind of got a little carried away on. So definitely go check those out. The upcoming seminars: 3 steps to an effective kit, how your vehicle can actually save your life, when to bug in or bug out, and strategic gear consideration. So those are all upcoming. Questions on the chat? No questions on the chat. Comments, anything from you guys in the room here? Is there anything specific to this that you want to?
I actually had like a month ago, someone on Facebook, of all things, they posted a cartoon picture of the back of a car. And it said, "What is your car?" I meant to send it to you. I think I actually like emailed you, said, "Hey, I got this picture, I want to send you," and I forgot. And it basically was, it was like, my child's an honor student at, some school.
Right.
It's like you basically told someone where your kid goes to school.
Oh,
And it was like, and when I actually started coming here, I can't remember who it was, but someone told me, go ahead and take your, and I mean, I used to have the big NRA sticker in the back. I had when I had a Glock, I had the cool Glock G on the back of my, he's like, no, I'll take that off.
Right.
Cause that just screams, like
Right, in my car.
you might have one in the car.
Right.
And so now I don't have anything.
So it goes back to advertising.
Yeah.
And you bring up a great point. We all love to, especially if you've got somebody you're extremely proud of in your family, a child being an honor student or somebody getting into college, that's awesome. Advertise it, but quite frankly, the person sitting behind you in traffic, they don't give a shit. Sorry, I mean, congratulations, I'm glad you're proud of them, but the person behind you doesn't know this person from Adam, they don't care. Right? All you're doing is you're advertising bits and pieces of information about you that somebody could use in a nefarious manner. My favorite to see, I say favorite, the one that makes me cringe every time is the little stick figure families in the car.
I was gonna say.
Father, mother, 3 kids, and 2 dogs.
Yep.
I got your license plate number, I know your car. If I can Google, sometimes you have the family name, like the little monogram or something. Guess what? Quick Google search, I can find out where you live. Google Earth, Google Street View, I can see your car on your driveway, and now I know your dogs are there.
I actually looked up that picture I was talking about, what's the other thing? It actually hit, this like, I think it was a security website, basically said that not only is the stick figure thing really bad, it also says something about who you are and what you might have.
Yeah,
Cause the stick, there's like, there's one that's like, stick family, and it's like a hunter.
yeah,
And the guy's got a hunter, hunter, so, okay, guns in the house. And I thought that was kind of interesting. It's not only
Briefcase
just-
and a tie.
Right.
Now I work uptown, so I have a white collar job, which probably means you make a little bit more money, right? Or conversely, sports. You probably go to travel hockey or travel football, or you're gone every Sunday, whatever it is, you're absolutely right. Those little stick figures, it gives away more than the size of the family. It gives away a lot more information than that, especially if you understand what you're looking at. So as you go down now in traffic, you can see those go.
So we've had the sheriffs in our development a couple times lately, because during this pandemic, a lot of kids home, a lot of bored kids.
Yeah.
Aren't being watched. We've had a lot of vehicle break-ins, and the sheriffs are saying the first thing you should do, certainly lock your vehicle, but take out your door opener, your garage door
Yes.
opener. First thing they do, everybody looks at it as the top thing, and if it's there during the day and you haven't locked your vehicle or they break in, hit that, they're into the house, because nobody locks their door from the garage.
You make a fantastic,
Man.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yes, if you have your garage door opener in your car, and somebody breaks into your car, they now have access to your house. Yep, so, ways to combat that, take it out, obviously, that's first and foremost, but if you're like me, you forget to put it back in and you come home and walk out of your own damn house.
Right.
Put it in a place that's not visible. Sitting in the driver's seat, right, when they break in, they're trying the driver's seat door. They break in, they sit down, if they can see it, they're gonna take it. The worst one is when the car has it built in,
Yeah.
because then you can never take it out.
Right.
Yeah,
Someone also said hide your registration in your car as well, and snap a picture, have the garage door opener.
And what?
oh, have the garage door open, so in other words, take your registration out, take yeah, okay, so hide it or take it out, both, registration and garage door opener, I get it, yeah. Registration, that can come into play, obviously, you get pulled over, and you don't have a registration. I get if you have a picture, but boy, oh boy, I'm sure the right cop on the wrong day, you're gonna have to be explaining that to some sort of magistrate somewhere.
Plus, my wife would never find it, so.
Well, there's that too.
Follow-ups, like hide it actually in the car.
Well,
Right.
hide it in the car,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I remember there used to be the day where you would actually have it up in like on your,
Yeah, well, some advisors still have that place underneath where you can put it.
Oh, yeah.
Keep this in mind too, though, going back to the questions. Just because you think it's an awesome hiding place, you're not in that criminal mindset. You are a well-meaning individual. You're not a criminal. They know about that hiding place. Oh, I'm gonna put it under the seat. Well, guess what, the third place, center console, glove compartment, under the seat. Right? So if you wanna hide it somewhere, understand that very likely, somebody's just gonna find it. So something else too, and Clint Emerson with 100 Deadly Skills, he talked about when you buy a car, especially a new car that comes with like a keyless entry system, there's probably a valet key in your owner's manual. Where's your owner's manual?
Your glove.
In their glove box, right? Nobody takes the owner's manual, probably nobody reads their owner's manual anymore. So guess what? If I can smash that window and get in the car, guess what's already in the car waiting for me? Key. Fire it up, drive away. Yeah, understand. Those are absolutely great points, yeah.
I'd like to know too, they used to talk about your garage door was your most, weakest link, because, they would be able to have these devices where they could capture the signal, where you use from your,
So believe it or not, it's even easier than that.
is it really?
All you need is a coat hanger. So when your garage door closes,
Oh, yeah.
it's just got that little
Yeah, and you
thing
reach out
across the
through.
top, and then what's on the inside, that
Right.
T-handle that you pull when you lock. How many times have you ever used that T-handle? Never, right? Because if the power's out, you're just going in through the front door anyway, you're just gonna use your key and go in. And if something's in the garage and you need to get it out, okay, maybe you use it then, but odds are you're not gonna wanna go anywhere anyway. So cut that rope with a T-handle, just cut that thing completely off. Yeah,
Someone also suggests crawl space, put alarm sensors on your crawl space doors, or at a minimum, put a lock on them.
yeah, that's a great point. So if your home has a crawl space or a secondary entrance or even something small, like a very small window to get into a cellar or a basement, yeah, I mean, you gotta think of every entry, every means of ingress to your home. If you're going to go with a monitored system, it's the best to get all those, including crawl spaces. That's a really, really good point. Something else to think about too, and it's not necessarily going along the theme of how to not make your home a target, but if your power goes out, what's the first thing that you should do? Check your neighbors. Is the neighbor's power out? right? Because if the neighbor's power's not out and my power's out, what happened? Why me? Did somebody take an axe to the thing outside?
Right.
Or did something happen inside my house? I just gotta go flip the breaker. But typically, if something happens in a breaker panel, it's one room or one circuit that goes down, not the whole house. So if your whole house is out, first thing I'm doing, I'm looking out across the street. Hey, are the neighbors out too? If yes, stress level comes down a little bit. If no, the stress level goes right back up. Yeah.
Someone actually said that criminals use reciprocating saws to come up in your home through the floor.
What horror movie is this person watching? I mean, I know it's October, and it's not quite the 13th, my goodness. But yeah, I mean, it goes to show that these people, it's what they do. A reciprocating saw or a circular saw or anything like that, like a sawzall, it's gonna make a bunch of racket. So again, going back to that, kicking the front door open, in a crawl space, it'll be muffled a bit more, but that's a lot of effort and a lot of work. Not to say it doesn't happen, but that's a much less likely scenario than 34% of the time that comes through the front door. Yeah. All good points, all really good points. Anything else? Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
So just about the next class, the
Yeah.
effective kit, what is that more about?
So if you think about, and I didn't want to use the term bug out bag, that's really kind of what we're talking about. We're talking about EDC, whether it's on your person, in a bag, something like that. A kit to help you be prepared, whether that's survival or just general preparedness as you move throughout your daily life. Yep. So 3 steps to an effective kit. There's really 3 big things you got to think about with that, and we'll go through all that. And also, I'll bring in a bunch of different options. And at that point, I'd encourage you too, if you want to.
I was actually gonna ask if, because I think you and I have talked about
Yeah.
the difference between a bug out and a get home.
Yes.
And actually, I mean, I'm still putting mine together.
So that's exactly part of the next seminar.
Yes.
What is
So
the difference between the two?
the
I mean, I
difference
have my
between
own
the two-
definition, but I'm not sure I'm right.
Well, you gotta think about what, if you think about a bug out bag or a get home bag, 2 different end scenarios, right?
Right.
Two different end goals is really what it comes down to. So how do you support that end goal with stuff that you're putting in a given kit, bag, or something like that? We actually, so that next seminar talks about all that. It talks about the differences between them all, what the definitions are, what it means, how you might kit them out differently. We talked about all that, yep. All good questions. Anything else on the chat?
Just someone said, thanks, spend some time securing my own.
I mean, that's ultimately the goal, and it goes back again, start with no cost habit changes, right? Right here, no cost habit changes, those are the big ones. And arguably, this social media is probably the biggest key to that. Don't advertise what you have and stop telling people when you're gonna be away from your home. Don't give them the information that quite frankly is the hardest for them to get.
It's like you're advertising a shopping list.
Right, right. Yeah, here's a tour of my house, and this is all the expensive stuff that I have. Come get it, I'm gonna be on vacation next week.
Right.
And then the argument could be made, I don't know, so don't take my word for it, but if I'm an insurance agent, I mean, insurance companies hate to pay, right? They hate to pay out. So could that be used against you? Could that be a detriment to trying to get your money or stuff back? Maybe, I don't know. I wouldn't wanna take a chance.
Wouldn't that suck?
That would be awful. That's insult to injury, salt in the wound.
The attorneys would call that contributory negligence.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be one drop surprised if that did not come up,
Right.
not one drop.
Yep. So last one was, I try to keep them to about an hour, right? That's the whole point. We're at 53 minutes at this point, so right at that time. So we'll go ahead and call it. Thank you again for everybody on the live stream and anybody watching after the fact, and of course everybody in the room here too. So thank you again, and I will catch you the second Thursday in November, same time, 6 p.m., and we'll talk about 3 steps to an effective kit. So come, we'll talk about bug out versus get home and how that might play. Cool.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Drive safely.